and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Sana Makbool with you at BTV World. In today's show, we will be taking a look at the recent developments within the political and legal domains of the country, and of course, with reference to what transpired just yesterday. The former Principal Secretary of the former Prime Minister has, of course, revealed a certain number of measures that were deliberately, apparently, taken by the former Prime Minister with regards to the kind of narrative that was built after his ouster. And of course, with reference to the involvement of course, as per the claims of the former Prime Minister, the US, and then, of course, the current ruling elite that planned his ouster from the government. And this is important, especially in terms of what transpired since then, with these allegations denied both by the National Security Committee, the leadership, the federal cabinet, the military establishment, and then, of course, coming in from the US as well. And now we have seen that the testimony that has been given by Mr. AZAM Khan also points towards this particular issue, and then talks about how this was something that was played upon by the former Prime Minister and was a deliberate act to build this entire narrative. And this is something that has been recorded under Section 164 of the CIPC, and this is important, especially in terms of how much this is going to stand in terms of its value as evidence in the eyes of the law and in the court. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. At the same time, we also know that the US State Department spokesperson has once again clarified that the US denies these allegations, and whatever the former Prime Minister has said with regards to the US's involvement is not true, and that the US does not involve in the political affairs of any particular country, including Pakistan, and does not side with any one political party or the other in Pakistan and the rest of the world. And this is important in terms of what has previously been said as well. At the same time, we also know that the Interior Minister spoke yesterday after these revelations, talking about how there needs to be criminal proceedings against the PTI chairman based on what he has to say, and the fact that he still is not disclosing where the CIPHER originally is. He claims to have lost it, but the Interior Minister believes that he has it still. And so it's important as to how the proceedings are going to take place, which, according to the Interior Minister, need to proceed under the Official Secrets Act in a special court. At the same time, we also know that previously the Lahore High Court had withdrawn the stay order regarding the inquiry investigation into audio leaks with reference to the Cybergate. And then, of course, we also saw the FIA, after the Interior Minister spoke, also giving another notice to the current PTI chairman, calling him to appear before its headquarters on the 25th of July, and also clarifying the situation with regards to CIPHER. And if he doesn't do so, then this is something that is going to be taken as an absence of anything that he has to add to the matter, and so proceedings may proceed as per the evidence available on record. So we're going to take a look at all of these scenarios and what it really means, and try to understand the political and legal dynamics of this. For this and more, as always, in the studios, I've been joined by senior analyst Farooq Patafi. We've also been joined in our studios by Hafiz Ihsan Ahmed Kokar Saab, who's Advocate Supreme Court. Thank you very much for joining us. And we've also been joined by leader PPP online, Mr. Zulfikar Ali Badr. He's joined us online. Thank you very much, Zulfikar Saab, for being a part of the discussion. And let me start with you first, Zulfikar Saab, because when we talk about the political figure of the former Prime Minister, the current PTI chairman, there was so much that was taken on face value in terms of what he said about the US-led conspiracy or the US's involvement, and how, of course, the current ruling elite is something that he referred to as imported government. The blames, of course, shifted throughout the months, and then it moved on to the current military establishment, and it seemed that he was expecting the world to forget about what he talked with reference to the US. But we have now seen that there is evidence coming in from all sides, and we previously also saw a lot of denials coming in from the US and both within Pakistan as well. What do you think is going to be the importance and significance moving forward of what Mr. AZAM Khan has now said, and how that adds to the way that the government would like to proceed further with the former Prime Minister based on these allegations?
Rahim. Thank you very much, Sana, for inviting me to your show. My regards to the other guests in the show. It is very important that we have to look at this thing, the statement which have been given by Mr. AZAM Khan. We look at it, what is the reason why he gave this statement at such a later stage? Because he has been part and parcel of the whole conspiracy which the PTI chairman started. If you remember, I want to take you back at one of the leaked audios or videos where Mr. Khan was saying that I will play with it, and I just started and we have to play with this cipher thing, and there were a number of ministers were sitting with him, and so he played with that cipher thing. He sold that a cipher narrative to the public. Then he blamed the US conspiracy. Then he blamed the Pakistani establishment. Then he blames number of other people that they were part and parcel of this thing. Mr. Azam Khan actually have revealed the whole thing, that how the cipher was given to him and how he just lost the cipher. And actually that has to be, uh, taken out of him, because Mr. Khan still have the copy, actual original copy of the cipher. And all the people who were involved at that time, this Secretary of the Foreign Affairs, the Pakistani ambassador to the US, the Minister for Foreign Affairs at that time, and of course the statement has already been given by the Secretary to the PM. They must all be accounted for. They must be brought on some forum, and high profile commission should be made, because this was not something that is just a matter of some other FIR that you go and file a FIR and then you ask for the investigation and all the people come and join the investigation. This was a matter of Pakistani national integrity. The national integrity was compromised, and the national security was compromised. And at the cost of national security and national integrity, you know, the diplomatic foreign relations were compromised with rest of the world, because the global countries were not even, listening to you at that time, and Pakistan was in diplomatically was in isolation. The IMF program was rolled back. You were not coming out of FATF. GSP status was not there. China was not happy. The CPAC was rolled. Middle Eastern countries, Turkey, European Union, they all were unhappy with the Pakistani government at that time. So all the connectivity with the global world was disconnected. Pakistan was badly in isolation. So after the government, it was the credit of Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari who connected and brought Pakistan back with his diplomatic engagement with the world. So coming back to the point, it is very much needed, which is required at this particular hour, is that all the persons involved in this, they should be accounted for, they should be brought on one forum, and they should be thoroughly investigated. This is, I think, and this should be done according to the constitution, and the proceeding should be legally accounted for. There shouldn't be anything which should be unconstitutional or illegal. So once you are going to bring all the people on board, they will reveal each and everything. Currently the Secretary Foreign Affairs is a responsible person. He's a man of integrity, because he will never compromise on the national integrity. He has served on a number of important positions, and so are other people. So it is very much important and necessary that all the people should be brought, and high-powered commission should be made who will be investigating this. And if anything comes out, I'm sure there are a number of things are going to come out. This should be taken as a matter of national security and set an example for the rest of the life, for all times to come, so people will know. Because Mr. Khan has been saying that we have to set an example to punish the powerful people. So it's high time that we should punish somebody who was very powerful and who have actually disobeyed, and who have actually, compromised on national security and national integrity. This is high time.
All right. And Hazab, of course, this points towards an actual step taken towards investigation. And there is, of course, lots of things that we want to explore in that. First, of course, what is going to be the legal proceeding and the legal way forward and the right steps in terms of this investigation. I know the one by FIA is, of course, continuing. But in terms of what the Interior Minister has also said regarding these, the Special Secrets Act, it's important in terms of what really is going to be the way forward, whether or not a special court is going to look at the Official Secrets Act, and that is something that the government is going to follow, and what sort of hindrances and challenges already exist in this pathway, and the value then, of course, that the available evidence on record is going to hold, such as the audio leaks and what has come in from Mr. AZAM Khan as well. Yes, Hafiza.
This is my turn. Thank you so much. There is two aspects of this case. One is the political aspect and the second is the legal aspect. In the legal aspect is the FIA has been entrusted an investigation, the inquiry. There are three stages for this purpose. One is the inquiry, second is the investigation, and third is a formal report. And if the formal reports come to the conclusion, then there is a case registration by the FIA, and then at that time the FIA will decide what offences have been violated. Either it is Official Secret Act and or something other offences which the accused may be charged. So this is a
but
one.
Is it not a given as of now that the Official Secrets Act is violated?
No. This is just at inquiry stage, and we are talking about it that the action which is committed by the former Prime Minister and the confession made by the former Principal Secretary, that tantamounts to violation of the Official Secret Act. At the moment, there is no formal registration of FIR against the former Prime Minister, and there is no formal registration of FIR against the former Secretary. So this is just at the time of inquiry, and now the inquiry has been converted into the reportedly into the investigation, and the former Prime Minister has been summoned by the FIA for the 25th of July. So this is the one aspect. The second aspect would be, now I'm not you can say in a way for the legal side that some narrative is being floated by the former Prime Minister. The issue is that there is no issue with the contents of the CIPHER, but the problem is now is that where is the CIPHER? Who was the responsible? The alarming statement which is reportedly came out on the media is that the former Principal Secretary has refused to take the ownership and has refused to say that the CIPHER was with him. The former Prime Minister said that the CIPHER was handed over to the office of the Prime Minister. So this is a serious issue, and the custody of any the important document definitely have a legal consequences. So if the court, if something will going on in the court, the issue would be that not the statement itself might be it has some legal effect on it, but most importantly is that where is the CIPHER? The CIPHER was received by the office of the Prime Minister. It was seen by the former Prime Minister. It was seen by the Principal Secretary of the Prime Minister Secretariat, and basically the Principal Secretary is the responsible to have all the record to keep in the official of the Prime Minister Secretariat. Now there is a contradiction between the statement of the former Prime Minister and the former Principal Secretary. Now I am coming to the statement of 164. All the legal procedure in the criminal process in Pakistan is being conducted under the Criminal Procedure Code 1898, and there are three statements as prescribed in the Criminal Procedure Code. One is the statement recorded by a police officer for a person who has acquainted with the alleged commission of any offence. The second statement is with the custody of the police, and the third statement is made before the magistrate, which is being done in the present case. And in this case is if some statement is being made by a person before the magistrate, so it seems to be that is voluntarily, and the maker who has made the statement before the magistrate, he has known the consequences of the statement, and it is not a narrative statement. This statement has been made according to the process of section 364 CRPC, in a tabulated form. A question is put to the accused, and the accused is responded in that way. And finally, there is another, the legal difference between these two statements. The statement recorded under section 161 and 162, it is not by the person who has made the statement or who has obtained the statement. But in section 164, the maker who is making the statement, he has also signed at the end of the statement, and the judicial magistrate, he is also signing on the confession of the statement.
Right.
And this is basically the prosecution has made for many purposes. One is to strengthen his case, and the second most important thing would be that might be at the later stage the maker who has made the statement might not withdraw his statement. But ultimately, when this matter brought to the court has the final authority to say on it, and while making the statement, the confessioner who has made this statement, he is appearing on oath, and the other party has a right for the cross-examination. Finally, the trial court will decide how much value the confession has, and it has to be corroborated with certain facts for making a good and successful prosecution case.
Right. And Farooq, I want to understand then when we talk about all of these aspects and technicalities of the weightage that any sort of evidence will have legally, I also want to understand how one can establish the fact that when we talk about, of course, as Hafiz Saab was saying, and it made me wonder that this cipher, the content of the cipher is what it is, and the conspiracy bit is how it was something that was manipulated for a certain political objective. Yeah. And so how will this be established that this was in fact the intent, that there was in fact a conspiracy? Will that be based on the numerous technical aspects that Hafiz Saab was saying, or can it just be defended as a matter of perception?
Right, and I must actually compliment two of our great pillars of Pakistan's society. One, media; the other, our lawyers, who keep on obscuring the details and keep on finding ways to for the former Prime Minister to find an escape route. Why do I say this? Because right now you must have seen media pundits continuously complaining that we haven't seen the reports. Where exactly was this made? How exactly was this made? And why haven't we seen more evidence of that? Remember the same punditry actually, how it was focusing on Mian Nawaz Sharif's GIT, especially the classified document, because at that time everybody was not only treating it as a gospel truth, but also projecting all their desires or assumptions on that one classified book. Having said that, let me also actually point out very humbly that the reason why this testimony actually, especially this gentleman becoming an approver, is important. We have seen already, audio leaks in which Imran Khan practically is, conspiring to play on national interest and to use it for political benefit. Right? But because there is a CJ and especially the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and it has the three musketeers, they keep on actually ensuring that an investigation into these tapes cannot be actually carried forward. When that kind of interference campaign is being carried out, then you need somebody else to corroborate what exactly was said. And therefore, it is very important. Remember, yesterday I also very humbly submitted to you that the post of the Principal Secretary of the Prime Minister is almost the Prime Minister himself, because every communication that goes out of his office essentially carries his signature, not Prime Minister. And that is not all. He is responsible for scheduling, meeting, and then public treatment of a Prime Minister's office as well. So if there is ultimate insider, it is only the Principal Secretary. We can, for the argument's sake, say that with the former Prime Minister, there were three insiders. One, a journal, especially the head of ISI, the then ISI. The other one is Principal Secretary, and the third one is, of course, his wife, because he kept on consulting all three. So one of them actually coming forward and volunteering a statement, it is going to build up into a huge, tornado, which is going to, in coming days, really affect the future. You must have heard the statement by the law minister today, that if it is merely about playing on the national interest, a document that might actually have some privileged information and using it for political purposes, it can lead to 14 years in prison. And if the matter is related to mismanagement and losing of that document, which by the way we keep on calling CIPHER, it is technically not a CIPHER. Yesterday I had actually qualified how diplomatic cables actually work. It is essentially that your embassy abroad has a strong room. Through that, a message is conveyed that is encrypted, and that actually takes the form of a cipher. It is deciphered in another strong room here at our Foreign Office. The cipher immediately is destroyed. And whatever is committed to memory is, if the reader, an official, an important privileged official, if he thinks that there are people who need to be alerted, he writes a summary, and then that officer actually doubles down as the runner and takes the sealed document, that summary in a sealed envelope to the Prime Minister's office or whosoever is related, and that summary is then given to somebody responsible like the Principal Secretary himself. So in this case, the person who is responsible for the custody is essentially Principal Secretary. And with that, of course, if he says that he had given it to the Prime Minister who lost it, then it becomes something even bigger. Having said all these things, I understand that at this moment formal charges have not been filed. But what you were asking earlier, and the question was directed at Hafiz Saab, was essentially how it is going to play out in coming days, right? And you talked about how it is taken for granted now that it is going to become a matter of Official Secrets Act, because all the concerned authorities that we have listened to, Interior Minister, Law Minister, various other leaders of government side and other experts related to government keep on telling us that it is going to be essentially about Official Secrets Act. Yesterday I actually mentioned another thing, that it could lead in that direction also, because then you have to make the connection. There is a propaganda campaign against Pakistan in all capitals, right? We have many enemies or rivals that we have been fighting wars with. But then what happens when one of our own leaders uses such privileged information to badmouth Pakistani state? What happens is that the enemies actually get a walkover, right? And this is a case that can be made in all courts of law. And if that is a connection is made, of course, then it can lead to many serious issues. I said treason yesterday. Somebody actually thought that I'm talking about high treason. Not high treason, not Article 6, but treason itself is an offense as well. So that is also a possibility. There are many avenues that this can lead to. And if you actually club them all together, May 9th, whatever he has been saying or bad-mouthing the former army chief, the DGISIs, certain serving officers of the army, then with May 9th and this story and how he actually kept on manipulating politics, right, it can become something bigger.
Right. When we talk about all of this, Zulfikar Saab, it's important then to ensure that action is in fact taken. But at the same time, of course, when we take a look at what has happened previously and the kind of leverage, particularly that has been given from the legal system to the former Prime Minister, is also an important factor as how this is going to play out. And I want to understand what sort of strategy is in place by political parties such as the one you're representing yourself as we move forward, because this, of course, is going to be election year as well, and there will be a caretaker set up for the next couple of months. And because of that, it's also important to understand what sort of pressure can possibly exist on a legal system that unfortunately does not have the trust of so many parliamentarians.
Our party policy is very clear. Our party policy is very clear that whatever happens in this country should be under the law and under the constitution. There shouldn't be any kind of a violation of constitution of any law. So once the the inquiry is done, the investigation is done, and the it is actually sorted out that which act have been violated and what other sections have been violated. So Mr. Khan must be tried under that particular section and under that act. If it's a Secret Service Act, if it's some other act, that must be done on a priority basis because it's an election year. Because everybody, all the political parties who are in the government, they have been trying to conclude, but the delaying tactics are being used by the PTI chairman. And since 2014, there is no conclusion of the case of foreign funding. Then there is a case of Tosha Khana. Then there is a case of Al Qadir Trust. Then there is a case of misdeclaration. I mean, there are a number of cases that all should be held accountable, and they all should be concluded within that particular time period. I have been saying this a lot because in Pakistan, if we have to grow and we have to uh, uh, bring the constitution and law, make law the priority, then all the people, whether they are rich or poor, they are strong or weak, the accountability and the law should be same for all the people. This is very important because once you're going to apply a law which should not be discriminatory to the people who are either strong or in power or who are weak or out of power, then I think we will be able to make equality before the people, and we can go in public and tell that here we are, and we want justice for all. Because Mr. Khan have been delaying his cases, and there is no outcome of any case. One of, I think, the guest was saying that uh, the lawyers, yeah, Mr. Patafi was saying that he was appreciating the lawyers that they have been, using that delaying tactics and looking for a way out. That how can they save Mr. Khan? So the thing is, whatever lawyers do, whatever strategies they use, we have to understand one thing. All the political parties, our party, we are of the opinion that the accountability and the justice must prevail, and nobody should be condemned unheard. Chances should be given to every person. The due process of law should be adopted, but it's not that there should be a delay in the legal proceedings. There should be a delay, undue delay, because sometimes delay happens of some number of reasons. Being a lawyer, I understand, but undue delay should never happen, and everybody should be brought on the trial. The trial is not been concluded. So your question was that our political parties and our party is very much aligned and very much focused that whatever happens, it should be under the constitution and under the law, and it should be done because it's high time for government, for the decision makers, for all the people who are actually working on this case. They should take action and action. Delaying the matter will not give them any chance because the assemblies are
And Zulfikar Sahab,
completing
I want to.
its term, right?
Sure. I want to understand, Zulfikar Sahab, then that what sort of a way forward can there be from the government at the moment, and then moving forward, different political parties? Will there be any sort of pressure or expectation or a way forward that this process is completed before the elections?
I don't foresee, in my personal views, I don't foresee that this process can be completed before elections, even if they go for a summary trial day-to-day basis, that might complete the trial. Otherwise, the due process and the fair right of trial should be given to all the parties. I think they should initiate the case. They should determine under which act and what sections should be implemented to register a case. Once that is been highlighted, that is been focused and judged, then I think they should register a case and make the investigation team on a high profile basis, experts from different, investigation agencies, and they should conduct the investigation. And even after the caretaker government, that investigation can move on. So there is a time period after the caretaker government takes over. So there is a time period of 90 days. So before 90 days, I mean, they can always determine that whether there is some kind of accusation or reality, or it's just kind of a false call, which have been a false narrative which have been built by the PTI chairman. So that can be determined by the investigation officers. I mean, I should not be, calling any person that this is going to be the concluding end result, but everyone knows that what kind of case was that, because this narrative was built on a false story. This cipher story was built on on lies. So we everyone knows, but fair right of trial should be given, and everybody should be brought on board, and proper investigation should be done.
Right, absolutely. And what you said is, of course, extremely important, especially in terms of a fair trial. But I want to explore that a bit further, Hafizab, the assurance that it, in fact, indeed will be a fair trial, because not just if we take away any sort of the existing sort of issues with the bench or the CJP, or the kind of mistrust that exists between the parliament and the judiciary, I want to still understand that when we talk about cases which have some sort of political involvement, do you think that there is or has been fair trials in the country, and how we can ensure that moving forward? And I also want to understand what sort of a timeline do you foresee for this investigation to be completed, for us to move forward with an actual consequence? And add to that also the value that the statements coming in from the US will hold, because they have repeatedly denied this, have just denied it again, and so that will also add to the investigation, right?
One thing is that to the extent of the statement of the United States from day one, they keep denying on it, and even in Pakistan by the authorities, and while having the meeting of the National Security Councils, there was I mean, some démarche to the American ambassador at that time, but there was no like thing, anything that there was a conspiracy by the United States. So this is the one aspect. The second aspect would be about the registration of cases, or the investigation, the trial. In all these cases initiated even by the FIA or by the police or by the Election Commission of Pakistan, they are at phase 1. Even they have not gone into the phase 2. That still many cases they are in the investigation side. Many cases the former Prime Minister is on the protective bail. And now when the investigation will be completed and challan will be submitted in before the competent court, then the regular court process will initiate. So primarily this is the responsibility of the investigating officers and the investigation agencies like the police and the FIA. They should expedite their matter, and they should finalize their report and determine with certain facts, and then submit a challan to the competent court. And then now we will talk about the role of the court is. So at the moment is that if any moment the investigation will be finalized by the investigating agencies, then the court will take action, and they will call the witnesses, and the statement will be recorded. So it is important for us, I keep saying on that there is so complex procedures in Pakistan, and Pathafi Sahab has rightly pointed out that these complex procedures has been exploited either by all the people who, either by the investigation side or by the people who are in the justice system. So we need to have a new and vibrant justice system. I mean, you're talking about that many events have been taken place for the last many years, especially relating to this one, but you are saying that there is no concrete the progress on it. And like in many other cases, if you visit our district courts, the high courts and the Supreme Courts, many cases are pending over there, and even the people who are filing their cases and who had filed their cases, they had died during the pendency of these cases. So the most important thing would be that in addition to the due process of law, which is a fundamental right of any person under the Constitution of Pakistan, simultaneously we need to change our criminal justice system, we need to change our civil justice system. So everybody should know that if I commit something, I will be prosecuted within a timeline.
Yeah.
If we take these things for unlimited period, then there is no legal consequences, or most important would be that when the prosecution has a certain line of action, and when the government change or some process is going on, it keeps dipping into the sides. So ultimately the people will scot-free, and we are saying about that there is no rule of law in Pakistan. And when there is no rule of law in Pakistan, and in any country, there is no investment, there is no supremacy, there is no equal opportunity for the people of Pakistan. So I conclude on this side is that instead to all the time to have a criticism, and we're talking about in the general terms, we should realize what are our real issues in our justice system. And if we compare our justice system, we are at the bottom in the South Asia, we are bottom among the nation of the world. So this needs to be a serious point of view for the consideration for our policymakers, and most importantly the people who are at the helm of affairs. If we will not resolve our basic issues to address the systemic, the chronic issues of our justice system, the things will be going on in this way. And at the end of this, we will say that there is no the justice and there is no the rule of law, and there is no punishment for the person who committed the crime.
Okay. Farooq, the issue when we talk about, of course, the legal system is all there, but I also want to understand what is wrong in terms of when we talk about a prime minister claiming the fact that he has lost such an important document. Whether or not that's true is obviously a separate case, but it has been something that has been missing, and that hasn't been we haven't been able to locate it as far as where we stand currently. And there's been quite a few there's been quite a large time period that has crossed between that. And so I want to understand then what sort of a system is at fault where we have such an important document claimed to be missing, even if it's actually missing, where are we wrong? And even if somebody is claiming that it's missing and it's not there, how is it that there hasn't really been any sort of an SOP that doesn't allow anybody, including a prime minister, to just say that they've lost documents that are so important?
Right, Sana, and that is a very important question. Thank you very much for asking this, because one mark of an unhealthy system is that, especially when it comes to alarm bells, right? That occasionally an alarm goes off at very small oversights, right? And then for years, the alarm doesn't sound at all, right? This is what has been happening. Remember when Mian Nawaz Sharif was actually in power, at that time what exactly was happening? Everything was an alarm. Every day your pundits would be sitting on television complaining that this microaggression was done, that microaggression was done, right? What has happened now? For 4 years, media actually took leave of absence. There was only an exiled media that took refuge in, especially the people, independent-minded people, refuge in YouTube and similar kind of platforms. But otherwise, the media kept on sleeping. Badr Saab was actually talking about. I thought that he felt it inappropriate that I mentioned lawyers. But before I mentioned lawyers, I actually criticized media, my own profession, my own brethren. The way this selective morality works in this country is tiring, it is obnoxious, it is really, really sad. And that's why, Hafiz Saab is absolutely right. Today we read the reports that Pakistan's passport is the 4th worst passport in the world. If that is the state of affairs, you have to understand who is contributing to this negative image of the country. And I think that when politicians, bureaucrats and other people who might be working in aid of them actually create a scenario where everything looks messy, it directly benefits your enemies, especially India. Every time there is some dumpster fire in Pakistan, Indian media actually capitalizes on it. When, if you remember, recently when May 9th happened, at that time in India there was an election. But just go to Indian channels. They were covering Pakistan cover to cover, minute to minute. Why? Because they think that that actually solves their own problem, that it diverts attention away from the dumpster fires that are going on in India. Similarly, when earlier we were talking about this, due process and all, I totally agree with what Batar Sahab was saying and Hafiz Sahab is saying, because I am a citizen, I am a commoner. I also need rights, and the best guarantee is due process, right? But again, there is one wisdom that People's Party, especially Benazir Bhutto, taught us, and that was after committing mistake of boycotting 1985's election. After that, they have never boycotted the election. They have ensured that they are part of the system whenever some kind of change takes place. Even after the assassination of Mohtarama Benazir Bhutto, it was not, People's Party did not boycott. After Asif Ali Zardari being hounded, they did not boycott the election. What does that do? It keeps on actually building momentum for democracy. In the end, when Khyber Pakhtunkhwa gets its name, when 18th Amendment is passed, when so many other things happen, that is merely because of this belief. So what happened on May 9th, and whatever the former Prime Minister was doing since April 9th last year, between these two, there are so many things that happened. But on May 9th, whatever happened, I tell you, had it happened 10 years ago, there would have been a martial law in this country. This time, luckily, it wasn't there, right? That means that the system is still going and we are moving towards an election. So what I want to actually highlight is, while we keep on talking about these issues and we focus on procedures, and then suddenly the past revolutionaries like Itazaz Hassan and Latif Khosa suddenly find a voice for the selective pursuit of some kind of justice. In the end, what matters is the continuity of the system, and in that, if somebody has alienated the entirety of state, they will face consequences. Sarah, on May 9th, things were done, there were to be consequences, and they are being done or met through the system itself. So due process is there, but don't inhale the propaganda or noise that you keep on seeing because of the vlogosphere and because of the punditry that is, so biased towards in favor of PTI.
Right. Thank you very much, Farooq, and thank you very much, Zulfikar Badr Saab. Thank you, Hafiz Ihsan Saab, for joining us and being a part of the discussion. That's all that we have for now. Of course, there is much that remains to be seen as how these particular actions are going to be investigated and how the case proceeds. But of course, what we hope for is that the process is strengthened and that a fair trial happens. That's all that we have for now. We'll see you tomorrow.